Bill Gates was a smart and curious kid who loved to tinker with computers. He also had a rebellious streak and often got into trouble at school. He was fascinated by the new technology of microcomputers and wanted to learn how to program them. One day, when he was 7 years old, he heard about a company called MITS that had created the first personal computer, the Altair 8800. He decided to write a letter to the company, asking for a free computer and some software. He also boasted that he could write better software than anyone else. He didn't expect to get a reply, but to his surprise, he received a phone call from Ed Roberts, the president of MITS. Roberts was intrigued by the letter and invited Gates to visit his headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He also offered to pay for his flight and accommodation. Gates was thrilled and convinced his parents to let him go. He packed his bags and boarded the plane, dreaming of becoming a software mogul. He didn't know that his trip would be anything but smooth. When he arrived in Albuquerque, he was greeted by Roberts, who took him to his office. There, Gates saw the Altair 8800 for the first time. He was amazed by the machine and asked Roberts if he could try it out. Roberts agreed and handed him a manual. He told him that the Altair 8800 used a programming language called BASIC, which was easy to learn and use. He also told him that he had hired some programmers to write software for the computer, but they were not very good. Gates opened the manual and started reading it. He quickly grasped the basics of BASIC and began typing commands on the keyboard. He wrote a simple program that displayed "Hello, World" on the screen. He showed it to Roberts, who was impressed. He asked Gates if he could write more complex programs, such as games or calculators. Gates said yes and asked for more time. Roberts left him alone in his office and went to attend some meetings. Gates spent hours writing code on the Altair 8800, creating various programs and testing them. He was having so much fun that he lost track of time. Meanwhile, outside, a storm was brewing. A rare tornado had formed over Albuquerque and was heading towards the city. The wind picked up speed and the sky turned dark. The power went out in some areas and people started panicking. Roberts heard about the tornado and rushed back to his office. He found Gates still working on the Altair 8800, oblivious to the danger. He shouted at him to stop and get out of the building. Gates looked up and saw Roberts' angry face. He didn't understand what was going on. He asked Roberts what was wrong. Roberts pointed at the window and said, "There's a tornado coming. We have to evacuate now." Gates looked at the window and saw the swirling mass of clouds approaching. He realized that he was in trouble. He grabbed his backpack and followed Roberts out of the office. They ran down the stairs and joined the other employees in the lobby. They waited for a few minutes until they heard that it was safe to leave. They got into Roberts' car and drove away from the scene. As they drove, Roberts scolded Gates for being so careless and irresponsible. He told him that he had put himself and others in danger by ignoring the warnings and staying in his office. Gates apologized and said that he didn't mean to cause any trouble. He said that he was just so engrossed in programming that he didn't notice anything else. Roberts shook his head and said, "You have talent, kid, but you also have a lot to learn. Programming is not everything in life." You have to pay attention to your surroundings and respect other people's time and safety." Gates nodded and said that he understood. He thanked Roberts for giving him the opportunity to work on the Altair 8800 and said that he learned a lot from him. Roberts smiled and said that he appreciated his enthusiasm and passion for software. He said that he would keep in touch with him and maybe offer him a job someday. They arrived at the airport and parted ways. Gates boarded his plane back to Seattle, feeling both excited and humbled by his experience. He decided to follow Roberts' advice and balance his love for programming with other aspects of life. He also decided to work harder on improving his software skills and creating better products. He kept his promise and became one of the most successful software entrepreneurs in history. He also became a philanthropist and donated billions of dollars to various causes. The moral of the story is, programming is a wonderful and rewarding activity, but it should not consume your whole life. You should also be aware of your environment and the people around you. You should respect their needs and safety, and not put them at risk for your own interests. You should also strive to improve yourself and your work, and not settle for mediocrity.
Thank you for listening. For more stories like this, please consider subscribing.